My name is Jeff Sutherland. I'm here to talk about distributed Scrum. I'm the founder of Scrum, which started in 1993. By 1995, we were distributing Scrum all over the United States and then all over the world. I am personally on a distributed Scrum team. My company runs completely by Scrum. One of the things we want to talk about first is the environment that needs to be created to get Scrum working well, and this is true whether you're co-located or distributed. The values behind the implementation of Scrum are critical. The first one is focus. How do you build focus on a team? All the events in Scrum are designed to get the team focused on an objective and a set of backlog to be created. I noticed when we were beginning to put together Scrum, you'd ask the team in the morning, okay, what are the most important things that we want to do today? Everyone would agree, and then they would go and do something completely different. So we had to set up a way of working that enabled people to focus and check in and make sure they're on focus all the time. And so our daily meetings, our sprint planning, our sprint reviews, our retrospectives, all the aspects of Scrum are an attempt to bring focus. Out of that focus, we really want people to feel a sense of commitment to the work. So in order to enable that, we need a system, a pull system. Scrum comes out of lean product development, which is a pull system. The people decide how much work they're going to do. They decide how they're going to do their work. And when they decide that, we want a feeling of commitment to achieve that work. So setting up an environment where you're not telling people what to do, you're telling them what the objectives are, what the priorities are, and then having them figure out what to do is central to building commitment in a team. The third aspect of Scrum values that's really important is openness. The whole Scrum process is built on inspecting and adapting. And so we need transparency, we need openness, and in a distributed environment, particularly in some cultures, it's hard to get people to be open, honest, and transparent. So the Scrum Masters, the product owners, the Agile leaders, they need to really work on trying to build that openness and transparency in the culture. To be open requires courage. It's not easy for people to be honest. It's not easy for them to tell you that there's a problem, but Scrum is based on surfacing problems, prioritizing them, and then removing them one by one. So if you can't get a culture that talks about problems as system issues that need to be fixed, if you can't get that process working, Scrum is not going to work very well for you, whether it's co-located or distributed. And finally, to enable that openness and courage to operate, there needs to be a lot of respect for people. So treating people well, listening to them is critical. Respecting them, adopting their ideas, taking their input. The same thing is true for the customers, because the Agile way of working is to try to put the customer first. So having respect for the customer's wishes, having a sense of respect for what the customer has to go through to use the product. Creating an environment where the customer feels really good about using the product you're creating. So these 5 values are core to creating an environment where Scrum will work. And if you have a distributed team, you really need to have them get together and agree on how are we going to build these values into the way we're working on Scrum. Only then will we get the high performance that's possible with implementing a Scrum team well, whether it's in one location or many locations. So those are the Scrum values, and in the last release of the Scrum Guide, we put them front and center, the start of the Scrum Guide. This is where you start with Scrum, creating an agile culture that can enable teams to really perform. So the most important thing for a distributed Scrum is to start by creating a culture where these 5 values are implemented. In the most recent edition of the Scrum Guide, we move them to the top of the Scrum Guide, front and center. The ability to get people focused, the ability to get them committed, the ability to encourage openness, which requires courage, which means you have to respect the people. These values are central to building high-performing Scrum teams.